Of course, you can take your competitors' financial statements and derive meaningful conclusions. Everyone has access to the financial statements, especially if they're a Cyprus company, but this is the case also in the UK. So, how to fully understand, not read the financial statements of your company, part 3. This is the third video we're recording for this matter, and I'm giving you extra tips, hints, and tools you can use to fully understand the story of your own company. The most obvious is, of course, the ratios. These are the accountancy ratios, such as the gross profit margin, the net profit margin, where you take your gross profit and you divide by the turnover, and you do the same with the net profit, and you compare this year on year to see how well your company did in comparison to other years. But over and above this, you can also take expenses which are meaningful and valuable to your operation, whether you are a service company or a manufacturing company, and also divide them by your turnover. For instance, if you are a service company, you can divide the turnover by the number of employees and see how much turnover each employee makes. To take this a step further, you can obtain your competitors' financial statements and do the same on their turnover divided by their number of employees and see whether you are aligned. This is just one example. You can do the same for marketing expenses, you can do the same for bank charges, you can do the same for manufacturing costs, you can do the same for inventories, and so on. So you have your data, you have prior year's data that you can compare with the current year, and of course you can obtain average industry statistics, and if these are not available, or even if these are available, you can also obtain your competitors' financial statements and compare them to yours. Of course, you're not going to compare the absolute numbers, because maybe your turnover is 2 million and the financial statement of a similar competitor is 3 million or 4. But if you divide equals, so if you divide the number of employees of the competitor and the number of employees of your company, you can see how much each employee generates and if this is comparable. You can also compare your net profit margin to their net profit margin, or your gross profit margin to theirs, and see if they are more efficient or if you are more efficient, and so on. You can do the same with the expenses I've mentioned earlier on. So this is the third video. We have exhausted, I believe, this issue at the basic level. If you want more information, if you want to truly understand more about your business, then what you can do even further, besides the advice we've given you, is to take all the qualitative and non-number factors that are important to you and combine them with your financial statements to derive into new conclusions. I've talked about this a bit in the previous video, so read it and you'll understand what I'm talking about. In a nutshell, obtain your industry averages and compare them to yours. Obtain your competitors' financial statements, but you need to compare equals, and then check their ratings and their rankings and their ratios to yours to see whether you are more efficient, if they are more efficient, and so on. Also, by reviewing your competitors' financial statements year on year, you can see their growth and assess their growth and see whether your growth is also comparable to theirs. You can also see some investments they're doing, either in personnel, either in industrial equipment, either in inventories, either in marketing, and maybe they know something more about what's going to happen, or they take different actions to you. Again, something for you to consider. So understanding the financial statements, it's a whole different level of playing the game in business. Reading them, okay, it can take you 10 minutes, you read them, you sign them, you give them to the auditors to make the submissions, but why lose so much valuable information when you follow the steps we've explained, and which at the end of the day could also determine your strategy for the following years. Thanks for watching and stay tuned.